William James was an American philosopher and psychologist born in 1842 and passed away in 1910. The Will to Believe is a lecture by William James, first published in 1896, which defends in certain cases the adoption of a belief without prior evidence of its truth. James' main point for this lecture was that he believed there were three different categories regarding belief. First, there's a live or dead option. Second, forced or avoidable. Finally, momentous or trivial. A live option is a proposition that's possible for one to believe. A dead option is a proposition that's impossible for one to believe. An avoidable option is when the decision between two options can be avoided making. Force is the option that is irreversible option for significant stakes. A momentous option is a proposition that probably will only be presented to you once in your life. Finally, trivial option is the opportunity that's not unique or insignificant, or your decision can be reversible if it's later proved unwise. William James claimed that pure reason is never the final determinant of what we believe. He thought that our non-intellectual parts of our mind, such as emotions and desires, also influence our beliefs. Because James felt as though our beliefs are partially determined by factors other than reason and rationality, he questioned if we should embrace this as a fact of psychological life or should we struggle against it. In addressing this question, James noted that we have two epistemic duties. One is the duty to believe the truth, and two, the duty to not believe the false. These duties sometimes conflict. In order to believe the truth, we must have beliefs, and so we risk having false beliefs. In order to avoid having false beliefs, we may avoid believing things that could be true. William James concluded that because some beliefs, like the belief that avoiding falsehood is more important than attaining truth, is not logical, then we will have to put everything into question and never get true certainty. So that means it must be okay sometimes to believe things for non-rational reasons. The second philosopher I chose was Sextus Empiricus, who is a Greek philosopher who lived in Athens during the late 2nd and early 3rd century AD. In his books, Outlines of Pyrrhonism, he explains a form of extreme skepticism which stated that judgment must be suspended about whether it is possible to know true reality. Skepticism does not affirm or deny that knowledge is possible. However, it asserts that every proposition has a co-equal opposing proposition, which makes all propositions susceptible to doubt. Empiricus states that skeptics question whether the appearance of anything reflects an underlying reality. He does not affirm or deny the claim that the world reflects an underlying reality, but he questions it. Sextus does not argue that the appearance of objects are unreal or that the objects of our perceptions do not exist. Instead, he suggests that judgments concerning the true nature of objects of perception should be suspended. The skeptic suspends judgment about whether there is any criterion of truth, and he says that any criterion of truth can only be judged by another criterion, which can only be judged by another, and so on. Thus, the attempt to demonstrate any criterion of truth leads to a form of circular reasoning and cannot arrive at any conclusion. Pyrrhonism asserted that suspension of judgment about the true nature of reality leads to serenity and quietude. William James and Sextus Empiricus both admitted there is things that we can never prove with certainty of what is true and what is false. Both philosophers do question similar subjects, including religion, about the evidence for this belief. However, their philosophical approaches are completely opposite. William James believed that it is not logical to avoid being wrong or right about our beliefs in God, and he constantly questions them. He feels that it is okay to believe in things without rational reason, to take the chance in perhaps being correct. His objection is to believe the truth. Sextus Empiricus, on the other hand, states that skeptics suspend judgment about the existence or non-existence of God. For the skeptic, there is no self-evident that God exists. This suspension of judgment is not a way for finding truth. Skepticism is more of a method of avoiding error than a method of finding truth. The skeptic avoids belief or disbelief in anything, because belief or disbelief may produce the conflict instead of calmness concerning the nature of truth or falsehood.